And I'm going to let everyone in. Here comes
Oh,
one. Okay,
wow.
here we go. And the more people will come, usually people are a few minutes late.
Yeah, okay. No worries.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. If you can already hear me, can I ask you to mute yourself? You can have your camera on or off, it doesn't matter. But if you could just mute yourself, that would be great, so we don't have any interruptions. I'm going to, and we're going to just, a few people will be coming in now, but I'm going to let them in, and then we're going to get started. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, guys. This is why I cut off the beginning of every call because I'm always struggling a little bit. There we go. Okay, everybody's in. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, for coming to the call. We're really delighted today to have Chantal Bijl with us. I probably didn't pronounce that right. I'll get you to repeat it.
You did a good
Uh,
job. Hello,
Thank you.
everyone.
Great. That's great. And I see she's probably not on yet, but my business partner, Bethany Quinn, has joined the call. She's actually on vacation now, but she's calling in from her
Hello.
vacation. So that's dedication.
Hi, Bethany.
I have a
And
lot of clients with that.
yeah, in fact, that's right. I was going to say th this probably the number one issue we get with a number one question we get from a lot of clients is I can't leave my pets behind. And of course, you shouldn't have to, right? You should be able to take your pets wherever you go. They're family members. So it's an issue where there's a lot of confusion and a lot of concern. I can tell you, and I'll go into more a little bit my story about how I brought my two dogs in. To brought my two dogs to the Netherlands, and I spent so much time stressing over it, like really weeks and weeks and weeks, actually about 2 months, really stressing every day. Like I hope it goes like this. I'm really worried about this. So
Yes.
I'm going to talk about that and all the things I learned. And then, of course, we have Chantal Bijl with us today, and she's the managing director of Flying Dutch Pets. They're a pet relocation service based here in Amsterdam near Schiphol. And Chantal is the owner of the firm, which she started 8 years ago. Prior to starting Flying Dutch Pets, she worked as a veterinary nurse, so she really knows animals. She worked in pet insurance, so she understands risk. And she's worked in hospitality, so she understands how people expect to be serviced or served. And she understands logistics. These are all like the perfect background for somebody who's going to
Yeah.
move your pet, right? Like that's all the stuff you need to know. Plus, you need to love dogs, and Chantal loves dogs and cats too, probably.
That's two.
Cats too.
Yes.
But before I turn it over to Chantal, I'm just going to give a very surface level overview of the four ways that I've identified as ways that people move their pets. And then I'm going to tell my personal story. Then I'm going to turn it over to Chantal. If anyone has questions at any time, just pop them into the chat, and we'll take them either as we go or at the end. So just feel free to put your questions in at any time. So I think the four ways, and there may be more, especially wherever you're going. These are the four I've identified for Europe. You can do it yourself with a commercial airline like I did. When your dogs, if they're small, they could be in the cabin. If they're big, they would be in the in cargo. You can hire a professional pet shipper like Chantal. You can fly a pets only charter flight like Bark Air, K9 Jets, and some private charters that people set up to bring their dogs in, which your dog gets to sit with you in the plane. And you can also cruise with your pets in kennel and the Queen Mary too. Now I've seen those kennels, and I personally wouldn't want my dogs stuck in the kennel for seven days. And you do get to play with them, but for me, that was a lot of people think that seems better, but for me, it seems worse. But there are a lot of pros and cons to every way that you can bring your pet. Some of the issues you're going to think about when you decide how to do it is cost, right? The way I did it was the cheapest way. I didn't have a choice. I needed to be very budget conscious. You want to also, the other factor would be your level of fear or guilt about how your pets are going to be transported. A lot of people just feel really guilty about the idea of putting pets in cargo. I think they don't really understand that it's not like where your suitcases are. It's just another area of the plane that has air conditioning and climate control and pressure and all that stuff. They're not like in with the suitcases. They have their own compartment. I'm sure Chantal will talk about that as well. Your time, the time you have available, because some ways take more time, like taking a ship takes more time. Um, your physical strength, I think people need to think about that too, because I have two huge dogs, and I'm going to talk about how that worked. But if you weren't strong or didn't have somebody to help you, I don't think you can manage it. It's physically very challenging if you've got big dogs in big crates. Also, I had like 6 pieces of luggage, so you got to think about like your luggage too and managing all that. And if you have children, I mean, managing all of that plus children, especially young children, it would be a lot. And then there's your tolerance for bureaucracy because you've got to deal with the USDA, you've got to deal with making sure you did everything right, depending on which option you check, which option you pick. Of course, if you go with somebody like Chantal, a lot of that becomes much easier. So if your tolerance for bureaucracy is low, and your budget is better, then you will probably be easier to go with somebody to do it for you. I'm going to talk about my process. So the first thing I did was stress out constantly. I went to every Facebook page about moving dogs and just tried to absorb as much as I can. But there was a lot of misinformation, a lot of scaremongering, people who always said, my husband used to work for the airlines, blah, 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 and all kinds of scare stories. It was never somebody like, I'm a pilot or I'm a flight attendant and I've seen dogs die, but it's always somebody who says their husband worked. I think it's just people who are like trying to create problems, honestly. Um, that you have to find a USDA vet. That's the first thing I did after I spent a lot of time stressing. I had to find a USDA vet. There was only one in all of Fort Worth, the Fort Worth area. I kept calling them. I kept asking them lots of questions. And actually, it's a good thing I did because I had to get documents from my other vet, and there are things that had to be added, like the chip numbers and things like that. So it's good that I got in contact with them really early, and the vets had to resend paperwork. I had to find crates for them. I again, being very budget conscious, I actually found the biggest crate, the biggest crate allowed by KLM. I found it on Facebook Marketplace for $50, and it's a $350 crate. So I found that one, and then a friend who's actually on the call gave me a crate that I used for my smaller dog. She's still a big dog and it was still a big crate. But so I didn't spend that much on the crates. Sometimes people do have to spend a lot on crates, depending on the size of the dog and the airline you're flying on. They have to be usually the hard-sided crates with the metal front that locks and everything. I made the decision. Oh, I had to start crate training the dogs because my dogs are not crate trained. And we got rid of the crates as soon as we got them here because they sleep on my bed. Like they do what they want. They sleep on my bed. They're not crate trained. So I had to start crate training, and all I did was put their food and their snacks in the crate. I did things like climb into the crate. And hang out with them because it was big, it was like a really big crate. And I would just like hang out with them to make them feel like, oh, this is fun. Mommy's in here with me. And I would give them all their treats and all their food in there. And I would close the door sometimes, but I'd let them out as soon as they were ready to come out. So they didn't get scared. They felt safe. And sometimes they would go into their crates on their own and just rest, which is great. That made me feel good about it. So they did get to that really pretty quickly in a couple of months. Um, excuse me, I decided to drive to Houston because I didn't want them to have to transfer. That was also a really physically draining and expensive and difficult because I had to rent a big pickup truck. I had to stay overnight in a hotel, which was horrible. Like, make sure you really check out the hotel you're going to stay, make sure they really are pet friendly and that they have a shuttle to the airport. Because we had to turn in the truck, we had to and I had to stand on the pavement, like on the sidewalk at Houston Airport, with my dogs and all my luggage while my husband went to go turn in the truck. That was really, it was really stressful. Then we took them to the desk. The KLM people were great. I think they really like pets. You can tell in the way that they responded to them. Nothing, everything was in order. All the paperwork was in order. We put food and everything on the top of the crate. They only use it in an extreme emergency, basically. Basically, the dogs don't ever, I think they don't ever open the crate once they're in. They didn't zip tie them. A lot of people told me they would zip tie. They didn't zip tie them, but they did lock well. So the other thing is, oh, I forgot. We first went to the vet. We finally had our appointment for the vet. It was Christmas, so we went the first day after that they were open after January 1st, and there was only 8 days between the vet appointment and the day we were flying. And that was a really tight timeline. You can't have more than 10 days from the day they sign the paperwork and they have to get it back to you for the Netherlands. Some countries have electronic transfer. So it was like nerve-wracking. And then there was an ice storm, so I heard nothing. I had no idea what was going on. The vet wasn't open to answer questions, and I started freaking out. But somehow I found the email for the USDA, and they were super nice and they helped me, so it was great. But it was a lot of stress. We finally got on the road, got down there. At the airport, it was super easy again. They were super nice. Kaylin was nice. And we waited until the very last minute to take the dog. So we checked in, and then we said, what's the last minute we have to bring them back? Because I'd read that on one of the Facebook forums. And so they gave us the time slot, and we went and had breakfast and we hung out. We walked the dogs a lot so they do their business, but also so they'd be tireder. We gave them anti-anxiety medication. They can't be knocked out, but they can have anti-anxiety medication. And that seemed to help because one of my dogs in particular is very anxiety prone. Getting them when we got to when we got to Amsterdam, we let them out of the crates right away inside the airport. You're not supposed to do that. We were told off for that. And and then we got them upstairs, and my husband went ahead and called the taxi. He'd already arranged that they would send two vans to pick us up, but the taxi was not happy that the dogs were out of the crate, and we didn't want to rebuild the crate. One of the taxi drivers took mercy on us and let the dogs sit in the van on a blanket, and then we put all the luggage and the crates in the two vans. And got home, and that was it. And then they were, it was very stressful. A lot of it was stressful, but they did really well, and they didn't seem that stressed by the whole experience, and they love being here. So, I mean, in all, I think it was a great experience. But if I had to do it again, I don't think I would do it myself, because it was really, really hard. Maybe one of the plus points about doing it myself, though, was I think they spent less time away from us, and my dogs have very high separation anxiety levels. So that part was good because they saw us like right when they got in the crate, and they saw us right when they got out, and we were there. So that part was good. Anyway, so that's my experience. Again, I don't really recommend it unless you're very strong, your budget is very low, and you don't have a lot of other things going on like managing children, or a lot of luggage. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Chantal, and you save your questions for the end. Put them in the chat. Any questions you have for me and for Chantal, and I will answer questions at the end, or Chantal will answer questions at the end. So, yeah, thank you,
Okay.
Chantal.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me on this call. Well, that was a experience you had, and I'm glad everything went well. Of course, there are different types of ways to bring your pets to on an airplane. The way you did it was like access luggage. You booked the pets as a service on the ticket you buy,
Yes.
and that is for most destinations perfectly fine. As you explained, when you have a lot of luggage or small children, it can be very challenging. And also, the thing I hear a lot is the bureaucratic stuff that goes around. So finding out how to book, where to go, what you need to do at the vets, in what time frame, etc. And getting the KLM people or an airline staff on the phone can be very challenging too on the passenger side. Um, I saw a question about the European health certificate. On the certificate, it states it's valid for 10 days. So we
Yeah.
always advise to do that within the last week of departure. The shortest amount of time between the signing off from the vet and the departure is best because things can happen. A dog or cat can get diarrhea, can get sick, kennel cough. The aircraft can have technical issues. So you have to delay and then you have to go again to the vet.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. And that was expensive. The vet visit was expensive.
Yeah, in the US, everything is more expensive.
Yes, everything. Yes.
Yeah, so you have to get a USDA vet who can sign off for the clinical examination so that the pets are fit to fly and for the European health certificate. So, and that needs to be endorsed by the USDA. And if you have a vet who knows what he does, he can FedEx the documents to the USDA, you get them back. So I would start, yeah, absolutely 10 days. You have 10 days to get that done.
I think
Yeah.
so. Christy is asking, she said, but she has this 30-day. I don't know anything about 30 days.
No,
I think
30
it's
days
10 days.
is 10, it's really
It's
10
10 days.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also
Yeah.
don't forget, you might your flight might be delayed. Like we had a problem, like I
Yeah.
called KLM to say, oh, because I forgot to say that I was so nervous about the paper. It did arrive on time. The USDA found
Oh,
everything, they arrived on time. But I
yeah.
called the airline to say, what happens if I don't get the paperwork on time? Because I still had to drive to Houston, right? So
Yeah.
I wasn't just driving to DFW, I was driving to Houston. And they said, well, it's okay because we you can go the next day. We'll check if there's space. There was space. There was also
Okay.
space the next day, but that's not always the case because they only have
Yeah.
4 spots for dogs on most planes, I think. Um,
Yeah.
and but I was very lucky, and then I didn't even need it, but I did check that. So
Oh, that's good. That's
yeah,
good to know. Yeah,
yeah,
because it's not, you have to have the documents to go on the flight because otherwise you get huge problems on arrival at Schiphol Airport.
yeah.
Um,
I also see this question actually from Bethany about a 60-pound bulldog. I don't, I think it's about how smashed in the face is, right? Like it's not
no,
about the breed, it's about,
it's all
oh,
about the breed.
it is about the breed. Okay.
Yeah. So it
So
doesn't matter if, for example, you have the French bulldogs, they have a newer type, which has a longer nose, a longer snout, which is great. But the airline doesn't care. It's like a
it's the
French
breed.
bulldog or not. So if you have a snub-nosed pet, you have a like dangerous breed, which isn't dangerous, but
What do
classified
you do
as.
then if you have so I know some countries the breed matters like you might have to wear a muzzle, it might have to wear a muzzle whenever it's walked outside if it's a certain breed.
Yeah.
But a lot of dogs are mixed breeds. Like my dog is listed as a lab mix. There's no lab at all in my dog, but she's
No.
listed as a lab
Yeah.
mix.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of people like they may know what their dog is, but if they rescued a dog, it'll probably say lab mix.
Yeah.
But if it's a
Yeah.
breed dog and there's papers, like, is a bulldog restricted? Like, like, how do you know if your dog is restricted and what happens if it is?
Every airline has their own list, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, every airline has their own list, but it's approximately the same breeds on there.
And is a
Uh,
bulldog a restricted breed?
no, in the Netherlands, no breed is restricted.
Okay.
Everything is welcome. If you go to Spain, for example, or Portugal or France, then it can get a bit tricky.
I think France has a lot of breeds that are on the list of
Correct.
dangerous breeds.
If you have a mixed breed, they look at the type of dog you have. So if it looks like a Staffy or it looks like a Cane Corso, uh, then it's the same as the breed Cane Corso or a Staffordshire Terrier. So they
Okay.
don't look specifically at the breed, but if it looks like or it's a mix with, then you also have to follow specific regulations or can't go to that country.
What happens if you turn up at the airport with your dog, which may say lab mix or something on their papers? They get
Yeah.
there, it's clearly a pit bull. What will happen with what will happen with the airline?
Um, well, most airline staff on the passenger side don't really aren't really aware of the regulations
Oh, okay. So
of
that's
their
chair
own
then.
airline
Yeah.
and of the country they are going to.
Okay.
So it is like you have to be lucky. If it depends on who is sitting at the counter. Yeah,
Right. So there's an element of luck. What do you
yeah.
do in that situation? Let's say you as a service, as a professional, pick up
As a
your dog and
professional,
you take it to what happens? Like,
yeah, as a cargo agent, we are aware of all the restrictions of countries and airlines, so we can advise upfront if things are possible or not. And in most cases, it is possible. Only you have to do extra stuff, extra. You have to apply with the how do you say that? The gemeente,
the city where
the
you're gonna live,
city.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to get approval in some cases.
But to
Yeah,
get it onto the plane, because isn't the fear about pug-nosed dogs is that they can't breathe
correct.
and is
Yeah,
that really true?
yes.
It is
There
really
are
true.
certain breeds that are higher risk. Certain pets, like senior pets,
Yeah.
pets with heart conditions or kidney failure, epileptics, seizures. So that is like medical stuff. And if you go to the breed, you have the snub nose, the snubbies, the snub nosed dogs, Persian cats. They have more difficult breathing and adjusting to, per example, if you go from the Netherlands to Los Angeles, it's very hot there, or Miami, and you if the change in temperature can be fatal. So
Okay.
in the aircraft, it's like approximately 18 degrees Celsius, and if you land on the airport, it can be 40, 50 degrees
Yeah.
Celsius,
Yeah.
and
Also in
that's a
Texas.
lot to cope with.
Yeah.
And if you have a snub-nosed dog who has difficulties with breathing, then it's like a higher risk even. Yeah,
And so what would happen then? Let's say I have a
yeah.
senior bulldog and I
Yeah.
want to get the dog to Holland. It's not restricted, but no, but the airline
Hmm.
won't take it
Yeah,
because of this, because of it being listed as a snub-nosed dog. I don't know if that is on the
correct.
list, but let's say it is on
So
the
a
list.
lot of airlines don't accept these breeds, but
Okay.
some airlines do,
Okay.
like Lufthansa Cargo, and you can also go with an all cargo freighter. And
Okay.
the pet shipping agent will know what route and airline to book,
Okay.
which is the best route possible for your dog.
So if you have a breed that could be restricted on the airline that you're likely to fly,
Yeah.
you probably should hire an agent to get you through.
Absolutely. In
Yeah.
most cases, these type of animals can only be booked as cargo, as manifested cargo. So in these cases, you always need a local agent to book the flight for your dog with
Okay.
the airline.
Or you could take a
Um,
charter with the where the dog is on in the plane with you, right? That's
yes,
also an
yes,
option. It's
that
very
is
expensive. It's like $8,000, 9,000, I think, one way.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is of course more expensive, but in some cases we have a lot of clients who go to Dubai
Mhm.
with snub-nosed pets, and they fly with canine jets, per example, which is of course more expensive, but it's the price for your dog and your tickets.
Right.
So if you have the funds, you can. That's a good option.
So
Yeah,
whenever you have a snub-nosed breed, you can try to find a different airline, Or use a broker who can find a different alternative,
Yeah,
or go as charter, or
yeah.
take the Queen Mary if they're not too
If
big.
it's a
Only
small
small
dog or
dogs.
cat, you can take them in cabin
Yeah,
if that is
small.
allowed from the air for the airline.
You have to
If
be
it's
really small though. Those dogs, I like it's like what is it, eight
for
kilos,
KLM, it's 8 kilograms pet
including the crate.
with crate or bag, travel
So that's
bag.
like tiny. These are only like little chihuahuas, right?
Chihuahuas, Pomeranian,
Uh-huh.
and a cat, a small cat.
A cat. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So
okay.
yeah, in most cases you have to use a local an agent like myself to book a snub-nosed pet on an aircraft. So they can or they go in cabin or they go in the hold as manifested cargo.
Okay. I
Yeah,
don't, what's the difference between manifested cargo and what mine was? It's like a
yeah.
package
So
add-on.
uh, excess luggage, you book the pet yourself with the airline.
Yeah.
And if it's a bigger pet, your pet goes in the hold of the aircraft.
Yeah.
Booking as cargo, then a cargo agent books your pet on the with the airline, and your pet travels in exact the same hold of the aircraft.
That they just allow it if a cargo agent does it is because the cargo agent has liability and the airline doesn't or something. Is that maybe the reason?
No, it all depends on the regulations of an airline
Okay.
and what type of aircraft they use for that route.
Okay.
So KLM has specific types of aircrafts. You can't book pets as excess luggage on those aircrafts, but
Oh,
as
right.
cargo you can.
Oh, okay. Because I
Yeah,
know that I've heard like I think it was from Portland. You can't from Portland you
correct.
can't take a dog as excess luggage, but you have to drive to Seattle. But it sounds like you could also do through cargo
Yeah,
through.
in most cases you can.
Okay.
And the difference is the way to the aircraft, the loading onto the aircraft. So customs wise, it's a big difference. And they enter the aircraft through a different door. So they are in a different section of the plane, of the hold. And that makes a lot of difference. Like the temperature is the same, the lights are off, no food, no one takes a look at your pets during the flight, but they are in the same hold. Yeah,
Okay. And also, one of my friends, the one who gave me the crate actually for Roxy, has a
yeah.
question. She has a very small, very old dog that has been told that she cannot get a rabies vaccination because
Oh.
it would kill the dog. And um, she's heard that Canada, for instance, will take a titer test in exchange rather than requiring a vaccine, but she can't get
Mm.
any information about any countries in Europe that might allow that. Do you know anything about that or how she could find out?
In Europe, no country will allow that.
Okay, you've heard of
No.
this before, and it's definitely
Yes, it's a definitely no. So
okay.
all countries in Europe require a rabies vaccination and a waiting time of 21 days.
Okay, maybe that was where the 30 days came from, 21 plus 7. Um,
That could
yeah,
be. Yeah,
that could be
yeah.
the 30
Yeah,
days.
for the vaccinations it's different, but for the health certificate it's
It's
10
7.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I'm going to move from the US to Europe. How long in advance should I reach out to you? And what's the process? What does the process look like?
Okay, so the process with us is you send in your request by email or give us a call or go to the website for the quotation request form. We make a quotation for you with the best option. We can adjust that to your preferences with extra services needed. We need a confirmed booking at least 10 days prior to departure so we can secure the flights and check all the documentation needed and give you some time to go to the vet and prepare a checklist for you, etc. If you go, for example, to Australia or New Zealand from the Netherlands, then we need more time. So the whole veterinary process will be like 6 months and more. And we can book a flight 30 days in advance.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
They're
for
very strict
KLM.
about animals coming into. into those islands, I guess, Australia, New Zealand.
Yeah, they're more strict. The regulations are more strict and more extensive, like several blood tests,
Yeah.
vaccination schedules have to be like perfect or has to be redone. And yeah, if we just take the route US to the Netherlands or to Europe, um, we can book a flight like 10 days prior to departure.
But it sounds like a little more time would be helpful, right? Like the longer in advance, the
Yes,
better, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh, um, the longer in advance we know about it, we can advise you regarding um, veterinary requirements that needs to be done. We can take a look if you have like a specific breed, like a bulldog or a staffy or uh, uh, yeah, a really big dog that needs a wooden crate. We have time to prepare the crate, and
What
we
happens if it's bigger and it needs a bigger crate? Because the measurements for KLM are very specific, but do those not apply if you're using a shipper?
uh, no, because it
Right.
goes
You
to
can.
another through another door into the
Okay.
aircraft, into the
Okay.
hold.
Okay.
So of course the door is like specific measurements. But if a wooden crate is needed, if you have like a really big breed, like a Newfoundlander or a Mastiff or something, then we can build a IATA crate, custom made, um, till an extent, of course, of how
So
big it
that
is.
sounds very expensive if you have a snub-nosed dog or a big dog.
Yeah,
It sounds like you just have to spend the money because there's no alternative.
there's no alternative.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, no,
It's
that's then the only option you have.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. What about the USDA paperwork? That was super stressful for me. Do you handle
yeah.
that for clients, or they still have to go and do it to the vet themselves and all that stuff?
Some people do it themselves, but it's always stressful. Everyone I talk to, if they
Yeah.
handle it themselves, first, what you mentioned, finding a vet who
Yeah.
knows what he has to do and can advise you,
Yeah.
and then where to get the certificates, where to send it to the USDA, the time frame, everything. We always hire a local pet shipping agent in the US to arrange that.
Okay, so you work with someone there and you work with someone here. And
Yeah.
do you ship animals anywhere in Europe or just the Netherlands? Is the
Um,
Netherlands always involved or
excuse
can it
me.
be in between any two countries?
Yeah, between any two countries. As a pet shipping agent in the Netherlands, I can book shipments from Amsterdam, and I also have Luxembourg.
Okay.
But we arrange global relocations, like all over the world: Hong Kong, Emirates, Australia, New Zealand, US, Canada. Yeah, wherever you want to go, we can handle
Okay.
it. And also, if you want to come to the Netherlands and need someone to arrange your relocation from the US or another country, we can arrange that too, but we use a local agent in that country.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Good.
we
Okay.
can mediate for you if needed.
Um, we talked very briefly about the safety element, and I feel like there was a lot of scaremongering going on. It didn't
That
sound
is,
very realistic to me. But what can you
yeah.
tell me about the hold? What is the hold like for dogs? What do you know? What's your experience with that?
Yeah. My experience, we do import and export. And of course, with an import, we see how the dog or cat comes out of the flight. And 99.9%, they are always like really happy to get out of the crates,
Yes, of course.
to see people. But they are really relaxed,
Yeah,
they
I
are
noticed that too.
excited,
Hmm.
but not stressed.
No, I also saw my dogs didn't seem stressed at all.
Yeah, if it was like dangerous for dogs or cats, or they would like stress out too much, I wouldn't do this job because I love animals too much.
Right.
Yeah, the conditions in the hold are like the same in the cabin, for the temperature. There is airflow, there is heating, they have water, and the lights are off. So usually a pet
They're
just
sleeping.
waits. They're
Yes.
sleeping. They lay down and they just wait till the hatch opens and they can get out of the
Well, you
aircraft.
know, my husband and I were sitting on the plane because I had put eye tags in the crate so I could follow when they were coming,
Oh,
so
yeah, where
I
they
could
were.
see when they were coming into the into the airplane.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and I was such a nervous wreck. And I was like, we looked at each other and we said, they have more space than we do. Like we're
Yeah,
leaving tiny little
absolutely.
seats and we're
Yeah.
like jammed in like sardines. And I'm like, they have way more space because like this crate was huge. It was the largest size. And my dog
Yeah.
is that big.
Okay.
She's like 75 pounds.
Well, yeah.
And she
Sometimes a crate that is really large
is a little
for the
scary.
dog,
Yeah.
it can be a bit dangerous because if there is like what is the word that
Turbulence.
turbulence, yes.
Yeah.
When there's turbulence and you have like a mini chihuahua in a really big crate, then he goes all over the place and you don't want that.
That's
But
somebody said to me later, I should have got a smaller crate and it would have been easier to manage as well. She's
it's
75
also easier
pounds.
to manage.
She's
Yeah.
75 pounds, so she couldn't have gone in a much smaller crate because she's also
Okay.
tall.
Yeah.
But
But
it was
well,
roomy. It was
they
roomy.
have it is like the IATA has like the crate has to be really big. So they have way more leg room than us
Way
and
more. Yeah.
way more.
Because they have to be able to
Yeah.
stand up and not touch the top. And don't
Yeah.
forget, you also have to put a bed underneath. I got the kind that wicks water, so they if they peed,
Yeah.
they wouldn't get
Yeah.
wet.
Like
Um,
comfy blankets,
yeah,
vet beds.
yeah.
I always use one who is non-slip. So
That's what we had.
when
Yeah.
they turn
Yeah.
around, the blanket is in the corner and the dog or the cat lies on the plastic.
Yeah.
So I always use a blanket that is like non-slip. Yeah,
Yeah. I got
yeah,
the expensive one. It cost way more than either of my crates. It was like 70 or 80 euros or dollars. And it's only about that thick. The crate.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like if they pee, then it wicks the
It
water.
absorbs.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
wow.
exactly.
Yeah,
Okay, so temperature, this is a big question about temperature and
yeah,
also the difference if you're doing it yourself or if you have an agent, like exactly what is happening right then. Because
yeah,
um, in Dallas, I know that if the temperature gets too hot, we were going in January, so the odds of the temperature being too high weren't a problem. But if
yeah.
the temperature gets too high, they don't allow the dogs because I think they're out
Right.
in the tarmac too long. So I know you have to
Yeah.
be careful about I know you have to be careful about the date that you're going and the temperature.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
And what
in the
happens if you
summer,
use a shipper? Is
in
it
the
the
summer, a
same?
lot of airlines have heat embargoes. So you can't use that typical airline to ship your pet because it's way too hot and they cannot guarantee the safety of an animal. So then you have to wait like till October. And in the winter, you have winter embargoes for when it's too cold. So the timing of your relocation for your pet is very important. And yeah,
Right. So
of
if you're
course,
coming
week
in
in advance.
September from the south, for instance, what would you do? Because you couldn't fly
Yeah.
then, right?
No, yeah, you have to wait.
You have to
You
wait.
have to
Okay.
wait or use another airline and pray that the temperature
Or drive
won't be
somewhere
too
cooler,
high.
maybe. You could also
Or
do.
drive somewhere cooler. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
you
good
could
thing.
probably do
Yeah,
that. Because it can get really hot in Dallas or Houston, for instance.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, and let's see, so the tarmac luggage processing, are dogs still okay temperature wise? Again, that's probably the time of the year, right? Because I guess
Time of
they're
the year.
out on these luggage carts, right? Is that how they're moved from?
Yes. From the warehouse or the animal hotel, they go over the tarmac to the aircraft in like an animal cart. And this is also what I think is the most stressful for your pets. So the
Because
animal
it's loud
carts,
out there
it
too,
is
right?
always loud out there. The noises they didn't hear before.
Hmm.
No one is around to comfort them. Um, it's a bit like wobbly. The carts are a bit wobbly, and then um, the They have to be loaded into the aircraft. And then the second thing I think it's most stressful for pets is like taking off and landing of the
Yeah.
aircraft.
Yeah.
And
Do you
that's the
think it hurts
same
their
as for
ears?
us.
Do you think it
The,
hurts their ears?
yeah, in some cases, yes.
And is there
So
anything you can do to prevent that?
no, make sure they don't have like an infection of their ears.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything about it, really. Yeah, we
Yeah.
know we have to like some tricks we do to prevent that or make it less worse, but a pet, you can't learn that to a pet.
Right.
No,
Exactly. And they can't tell you what's wrong, what's hurting and
they
stuff. So
can't
that's
tell you
always the
what's
problem.
wrong, and that's another thing that's very important. Don't ever use tranquilizers or sedatives, because
But
the blood
anti-anxiety
pressure.
is okay, right? There's a difference with
You
anti-anxiety
can
and
use homeopathic medication, but my advice is to try it at home first.
yeah, we did. We tried it at home
Yeah,
first.
yeah. So you know how your pet reacts to it.
Yeah.
And some things work very good. So then they are more relaxed, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, okay. So, tell me about things that can go wrong and what we can do to avoid them. What kind of
Okay.
things typically go wrong when things go wrong?
The most common thing I think is when people don't prepare the relocation for the pets. During a relocation preparation, you are so busy with taking care of your own flights, insurance for the kids, housing,
There's a
well,
lot to
packing
manage.
your things, saying goodbye to family. There is a lot to take care of. And your pet is a really important thing because they can't speak for themselves. So you have to organize everything in the best way possible because they can't tell you if something is wrong or something went wrong. So you have to make sure everything goes well and is well prepared. Um, what goes wrong is that people are misinformed by an airline or a veterinarian about import requirements or the time it will take to prepare your pets.
Yeah.
When is a rabies vaccination valid? Is there a blood test needed? Do you have to apply for an import permit? What are the exact regulations of an airline? For example, you take your snub-nosed, you book your snub-nosed pet on the aircraft, and you are in line at the counter, and they say you can't bring your pet because it looks like a French bulldog. All that things is very important to
And
encounter.
I'm going to go back to the same question I asked you before. Let's say you have
Okay.
a dog that's a mix. The
Yeah.
paperwork says it's a lab mix. It doesn't
Yeah.
have a snub nose, but it looks like a pit bull or something like that. What would
Yeah.
happen in that case if the paperwork says what it is? And would the airline personnel intervene and say you can't take that dog?
It can happen. Yes. If we book the dog as cargo as a lab mix and it looks slightly like a pit bull, then it's not a problem.
Okay.
But if you
The,
take your
the,
pets yourself as
the
excess
desk agent.
luggage,
Yep. Hmm.
yeah, then it all depends on who is at the counter that day, in what kind of mood are they, and
And what
normally
their
it's
level
a
of experience is.
level of experience, very important. Yeah,
Yeah.
and type of airline. Which airline are you flying?
Which
Also,
which are the best
yeah.
airlines? I'm going to say KLM was great, actually. I know
KLM
they
is really
came.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really pet-friendly airline.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have a lot of experience. They ship about 50,000 pets, animals in 1 year.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
horses, fish, birds, pets, insects, everything you can think of
Yeah. Yeah.
is in the aircraft. Yeah.
And what
So
other airlines are good too? I've heard Lufthansa is also good. I saw people.
Lufthansa is a really good airline to go with. Qatar Airways
Oh,
is a really
okay.
good airline. We use them a lot. Yeah, that are the airlines we use We use other airlines for
No
specific
other ones in Europe, like
destinations.
Air France or is part of KLM, I guess, or they're
Air France is part of KLM. Yeah,
so
so
they're
they're good
also good.
too.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no other European or American airlines you wouldn't recommend.
Well, we don't use them because
Well,
from Amsterdam we use KLM,
yeah.
and a lot of incoming flights are also with KLM.
Well, also,
Yeah.
so I used to fly American all the time,
Yeah.
and and BA, and I called to ask them. This was a while ago. I called to
Yeah.
say, how much would it cost to take my dogs, and it was like a crazy price. It wasn't like a normal
Yeah.
price at all.
Hmm.
Or at least I realize now that all they were doing was outsourcing it to a shipping agent.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that's what it was. I don't think that they allowed
Like,
us to
yeah,
use their shipping
British
agent.
Airways is a really good airline. The same as Aer Lingus is attached to that. Um, and it's a part of IAG Cargo. And the prices they have for pets are like way more expensive,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I found.
than like KLM, for example. If you use Emirates, that is also an awesome airline for pets. They fly a lot of destinations and they transit in Dubai. They have in Dubai a really excellent animal hotel for the transfer. Of course, it's very hot there, but they take care of that. But also crazy expensive. Yeah.
Okay. Because it seems to me like I didn't want my dogs to have to transfer anywhere. I
It's
don't know. Was that a good choice?
absolutely,
Okay,
if
you
you have a
should.
direct flight possible, I would always choose that.
Yeah, I just felt
Um,
like you don't know what can go wrong. Like you could lose the pets at the transfer or something. Like I worried about
yeah,
that. And then it's
if
such a
you,
long trip then. It's like
yeah,
20 hours
absolutely.
instead of 10, you know?
Yeah. For example, if we book a pet to Australia, we use Qatar Airlines or Emirates or Turkish Airlines. They have a new animal hotel in Istanbul, which is very good. They transfer there like for a whole day. And
Yeah.
that's a good thing. If you have a transfer, make sure it's long enough for your pet to go to potty, drink some water, get some food. During the transport of an animal, they usually don't drink, don't eat, don't go to the toilet, anything, because it's like it's I think a part of it's a bit stress, but also like a coping mechanism.
Yeah, like they don't
Yeah,
want to have to pee all the time, right? So,
absolutely. Yeah. So if you have a transit somewhere, make sure it's long enough so your pets can have a comfort stop. Yeah,
yeah, okay.
that's a good thing. Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any more questions? Well, Helen has the little dog that can't get a vaccine. Where can she
Oh,
find out about moving to getting her dog into Canada or Mexico? Anybody know any resources on that? I don't.
I can check what the airport requirements are for Canada or Mexico and get back to you.
Because
Yeah.
I think you would just drive probably. So, let's see. Do you know you can tell if a tag is AITA compliant? A
And what
tag?
is a tag?
Or whatever. Sorry, the microchip. There's like the
Oh,
Oh,
I know
certifying
the answer.
organization. I have a client who has her pet has a microchip, but she's not sure if it's the right format or whatever.
oh,
I know the answer. You may have know the answer. You probably knew the answer as well too. But you go to the USDA vet and they can check it. Basically, if they can read it, it's correct. And I think in the US there really aren't any more that aren't compliant.
correct.
I think
Yeah,
all
that
the
is correct.
yeah, the chips are
Um,
all compliant because my dogs were both rescue dogs, and the shelters always chip them. So
Cool.
yeah.
they already came from, with the chip already. And so I took them early to the vet to have them read because they also had to give that number back to my vet to make sure it was added to the vaccine record. So, because
Yeah.
originally my vet didn't add the tag number to the vaccine record, so they had to add that and then resend the paperwork. But we had to go into the vet like a month before and just check it.
Okay.
'Cause I wasn't sure it was compliant, but I think they all are actually in the
Great.
US.
The
Thanks.
most ones are, yeah. And a good tip is to have the vet check the microchip with every vet visit. Sometimes a microchip with a senior pet doesn't work anymore.
Oh,
Or, yeah, it happens. Or if you have a rescue, the dog has two microchips, and you have to know about that when traveling. It's very important to know that. Um, the most microchips are 15 digits, and they are always like ISO compliant, and
yeah.
that's always good.
ISO, that's it. Yeah, not
If you come
IATA.
from
ISO.
China, for example, they have different kinds types of microchips. And if you travel from China to Europe or to the US, then it can happen that the reader can't read that type of microchip.
So you have to
And
get a
then
new microchip.
you have to get a new microchip. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can, yeah, to avoid problems at the border.
But I think anybody in the US is going to have the right microchip, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
will
I
work.
never had problems with that in 15
No.
years. So,
No. Okay, so unless anybody has any more questions, maybe Chantal, you could just give us an overview of your advice for people. Anything else
okay.
that you want to add about
Okay.
this process? Because I think what's really important is, and you said this already, but it's like these are family members, right? And they're family members
Absolutely.
who can't
Yeah.
tell you when something's wrong and when they're unhappy. Sometimes we
Yeah.
know, but we don't know exactly what's wrong, right? So
Correct.
it's a lot, and I mean, as stressful it is for us to move country, it can be very stressful for the dog too, I think. So
Absolutely. And they pick up on our stress.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
sure.
start
Yeah.
crate training ahead of time, way ahead of time. It reduces stress like 90% of the whole transport if
How
your dog or cat is comfortable in his crate.
Yes.
For a cat, it is more difficult for than for a dog
Oh,
because a
right,
dog we can like bargain with it and give him
right. Here's some
treats.
treats go into your crate,
Yeah.
right?
If
Cats
you
are
have
not
a
smart
rescue
for
who
that.
is
Yeah.
really scared of the crate, or a dog who has had a lesser experience with a crate, like a road trip of 3 days in a crate from Bulgaria to Amsterdam or whatever, it happens. Take off the top of the crate. So your pet is like, the crate is only the bottom you use, and then make it like a game. Give them treats, feed them in the crates, go sit with them. All the stuff you did, Jana, that was really great for of you to do, because pets really, it's really helpful for them.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt your story, but
yeah,
one of the reasons I started training really fast
yeah,
and very consistent was because when JoJo was a baby, she was
yeah,
she tore up crates. She like broke out of crates until I just gave up because she tore out of every crate
yeah,
and she would cry. Like I actually had to sleep on the floor with my hand in the crate in the beginning because my trainer kept saying, "Oh, you
yeah.
need to crate trainer." It seemed cruel to me. I didn't like it, but I
No,
tried for a while.
yeah,
But at this point, at her age now, because she's like at least 11, maybe older, she was actually really cool with it. She didn't
yeah,
try to get out. She just sat there. She took her treats. She took her dinner. She didn't seem
yeah,
stressed at all when I closed her. So even
yeah.
if they maybe had been really stressed before about the crate, they weren't now. They were totally
Nee,
chill about it. So I think
yeah,
it's just getting
that's
used
good.
to it and associating food and relaxation and safety with the
Yeah.
crate. Yeah, sorry for that little.
Yeah, no, no, it's a really important topic, crate training and how to do it. Don't be stressed. Don't leave them in the crate alone with the door closed, in the room. Stay with them and make sure they are comfortable and relaxed. That is a really good thing. Zip ties, very important to use because things happen. It doesn't happen often, but it could happen that the crate falls or turns over,
And
or
they could get hurt.
your
Yeah.
dog gets in a panic and wants to try to get out, and then a lock can open. So always use 4 or 6 zip ties, sorry, to secure the crate. when
I
delivering it to the
I
airline.
thought they would tell us to put zip ties on them, and
Yeah.
so we took zip ties, and they never told us to, so we didn't put
Okay.
them on. But it
Well,
sounds like we should have
a
done.
couple of years ago, they weren't very strict on that, and the last couple of years they are. So
Okay.
again, the cargo staff of an airline is way more strict than the passenger side. Yeah. I
Okay.
traveled myself with the dog as access luggage to Finland with KLM, and that went right really good. Just as you said, they checked the documents. They had like a checklist with it checked the stickers, and they were very friendly. The dog sat on the counter. It was really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
good to do. Yeah, and if you need extra help, call me.
Sorry,
Yeah,
how long should people plan to crate train? Like, what's the shortest amount that you
it
would say
depends
is good
on
to
the
crate?
type of animal, of course, but I would certainly, with a normal dog with no issues, 2 weeks. With a dog
Great.
who has issues or a rescue dog, yeah, up to 3 months. Yeah.
Okay.
So I made the decision to move on November 5th, the election
Hmm.
day, and I moved by January 15th. But I would say my dogs were trained within 6 weeks. They were comfortable with the
Perfect.
crate within 6 weeks. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that longer would have been better.
Yeah, I think 6 weeks is long enough to get them to learn a new trick.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like really a trick. And if
yeah,
they get comfortable in the crate, some dogs are easier with that than other dogs. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to add about advice or anything else for people or any last questions if anybody has a question?
Yeah, I can answer some questions, of course. We had like a lot of questions already in the chat.
Yeah,
Shall I take a look at that?
I think I've addressed all the questions in the
Oh,
chat.
perfect.
I
Yeah,
think so. Let's see. Well, the timing of the vet, we dealt with all of that.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it, and
good.
oh, I wanted to add
Yeah.
one more thing. If you're coming to the Netherlands,
Mm-hmm.
you need to register your dog with the gemeente.
Yeah.
You pay a small fee. I guess you already have to be registered, like you probably register at the same time that you register yourself at the gemeente, I'm guessing,
Yeah, you can do that once
or
you
after.
arrive,
Yeah.
and not all cities require it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Harlem
Yeah,
does. I live in Harlem and
Haarlem does,
required.
Amsterdam does.
Yeah.
Where I live in Alkmaar, they don't. It depends on the city you live in. Yeah,
Yeah, in fact, you make another good point too. We also got them European passports
yeah,
because we're taking them to France. And
absolutely.
somebody, Krista would like your contact details. I should have been prepared to put those in there, but I will type them. Please tell everybody how to reach you.
Oh, shall I type it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay.
You can say it also in case somebody's watching the video.
Yeah, it's the company's name is Flying Dutch Pets. The email you can send me an email to is info at flying Dutch. Oh my gosh, how do you spell that? Dutchpets.com.
Okay, so info at flyingdutchpets.com.
Dutchpets.com. Yeah.
And your website is flyingdutchpets.com.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
so international with the .com. Yeah, you can contact me there on the contact form or
Or
email
just email
me
you. She,
directly.
Chantal was very quick to
Everything.
respond, so she's very good with email. That's great.
Yeah, I do my best.
There was one more question from
Yeah,
Nicole. Do you also register cats in the Netherlands? I think not, right?
I
Cats,
wouldn't do that. No,
because they
no, you
don't
don't have to.
usually
Yeah,
leave the house, right? Like dogs go out for walks and
well, a
cats
lot of
don't.
cats too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my dog is always like Roxy is like a cat killer. Like she really will kill cats. She's killed cats.
yeah,
She's a husky. And there are a lot of cats around in the little alley
I know. Yeah,
streets
yeah,
around
that's
Harlem,
terrible.
and I have to really grab her very fast because
Yeah.
they let them out on the street. But I think they're not required to be registered here.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, the European pet passport is required when you stay in the Netherlands more than 3 months. And if you plan to travel to another country, especially a European country. So after you arrive in the Netherlands, go to a local vet. You have to register. You get a register number.
Mhm.
And with that number, the vet can make a new passport for your pet. Um, and if the dog or the cat needs like a rabies vaccination, you will also need a European pet passport to do that.
So,
So
my vet, we got a pet passport for my dogs because we're going to take them to France on vacation in a couple of weeks. We're going to with friends
very
with
nice.
dogs and another friend who likes dogs. So we're going to go visit friends. And so we did get their pet passports, and they also said if we weren't leaving the country, we didn't need a rabies vaccine. It was only because we
Correct.
were going that we were going somewhere else that we needed the rabies vaccine. Otherwise, we don't need it. It's good for 3 years as well. So
Yeah, good for 3 years in the Netherlands. The Netherlands is like rabies free or well protected. How do
I
you
know
say
more
that?
of
I
that
don't. I don't know the
because you
word.
just did it
sorry.
because it was stinky.
Oh, I think Amanda, I think you're.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Sorry about
hi,
that.
Amanda.
Hi.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the
I see
Netherlands,
that.
it's not mandatory, but if you travel to another European country, it is. Yeah,
Because by the way, there are no really stray dogs here in the Netherlands because they have to
yeah,
register because people take care of their dogs. People go to other countries like Greece, Romania, Spain to get rescue dogs. So when they want to
correct.
adopt a dog, they're coming
Yeah,
from other countries because there really aren't stray dogs.
it's a comment I hear a lot that the Netherlands is one of the, now I think, very few countries that doesn't have stray animals on the streets,
I think it's
which
too
I
people are very
love.
responsible with their pets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's great.
And we love pets, the
Yeah,
Dutch. The
I
Dutch love animals.
and my
So,
dogs love it here. My
yeah,
Jojo gets to walk off lead every single morning in the big
great.
park around because it's an off lead area.
Yeah,
I don't let Roxy off the lead because I she'll get run over or kill a cat, so I leave her on the lead. But Jojo
yeah,
gets to walk free, and then I take them to the dunes to run in a fenced-in area every weekend. So
yeah,
there are a
perfect.
lot of nice things for dogs to do here. A lot and
Yeah,
they're welcome really at every cafe that we go to. If there's outside
absolutely.
space, they're welcome.
Yeah.
Um, and we even take them boating sometimes, which is fun.
Oh, yeah. If they, you can also take them like in the public transport. You can take them with you to dinner.
Yes, you
Not
can.
all
Yes.
restaurants, but
No,
during the
not a
day,
fancy
it's
restaurant, I think.
usually not a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
And it's if you have pets, this is a really good country to go to.
I
Yeah,
agree. I
yeah,
think it's a great country to live in, but I also think it's a great country when you have pets. So,
yeah. And we
yeah.
accept all breeds, like pit bulls, stuffies. Um,
I've
everybody's
seen
welcome.
every breed here, I think.
Every breed
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really nice.
Anyway, thank you so much, Chantal. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
You
you're
great. You
welcome.
really answered
Was
everybody's
fun.
questions and really appreciate it. So
Yeah,
and
you're welcome.
this will go on to YouTube, but we have to process it and stuff, but it will be up. It will be up on
Yeah,
YouTube. So
yeah, perfect.
okay,
Thanks for having me.
thank
And you
you.
know where to find me if you have any more
Yes,
questions.
we will send people to you. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
All
Thank you.
right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.